Alright, I said I was going to make a second video on the Chinese vertical axis wind turbine, and here it is. Here's the specs. As you can see in this picture right now, this is on my laptop on the screen. This unit is measuring 175 millimeters wide by 100 millimeters deep. In basics, this is supposedly a 600 watt turbine, and it actually measures at the 175, it measures 3.93 inches thick by 7.1 inches across. This is supposed to be a 600. Now the next picture, this is basically what I bought. Now you can see by the blades right up here, these are what they call it, they're double half moon blades. You can see my little arrow running around. Now the one I bought showed the controller, but it didn't come with the controller, so I had to buy it. I paid $153 for this unit. It's supposed to be 600 volts, or 600 watts, 24 volts. When I got it, the little tag that was on the box basically gave me a number, and I looked it up on Google, and that number coincided with a 400 watt turbine motor from Alibaba. Now again, I said I ordered this unit and I didn't even get the controller, which is down below. You can see it down there, back a little bit. So I didn't get the controller, and this is basically what I bought. Same thing. You can see the double half moon blades. Now the double half moon blades, these are the newer blades that have come out. The old blades, again, this is the newer blades, and you can see the motor right here. I'm pointing my little arrow at it, white or red. This is the 400 watt unit. Basically shows the same type of blades. If you look at the motor head on this, it's exactly, looks in the picture, the same size as a 600 watt. And here's the controller right here. This controls, what that controller does is it converts it from, the turbine is AC, alternating current. This little controller right here converts it to DC, 12 or 24 volts. Next pick. This is the old style 600 watt. Now you can see this unit right here. You can see my little arrow running around. You see how small that unit is? That is probably actually in the vicinity of a 100 to 200 watt motor, not a 600, even though that's what they've advertised. Next picture, these are the newer blades, or the old style blades. They've only got the single half moon on them. And there's the motor right there. And like I said, this unit here is probably a 100 to 200 watt motor. This is the newer style blades right here. You can see the double half moons that they've got on them. Controller, motor. This is my old turbine, 100 watter. This is the one I took down. It worked. Didn't put out a whole lot, but it did work. And I took it down to put the new vertical axis wind turbine up. Big mistake. This is the size of the 600 watt motor. Now you can, or the motor that I've got, pardon me. This is the 400 watt motor. You can see by the picture it's showing 153 millimeters diameter by 70 millimeters deep. And that basically is 2.75 inches deep by 6.02 inches thick. That's the motor that I actually got. That's the tag I got. You really can't see it too well, but it had some numbers on it. These ones down here was YY138701. I looked it up on Google. It put me to Alibaba. Alibaba showed it as a 400 watt unit. So I didn't get a 600 watt unit. I got a 400 watt unit. Real nice. This right here is another supposedly 600 watt motor, which is showing 185 millimeters across by 100 inches deep, and that is basically 3.39 inches thick by 7.29 inches wide. Now this is the air breeze right here, and you can see it's got a tag on it that basically shows continuous is 200, 300 is peak. model marine, gives you the serial number and all that. The Chinese wind turbines have nothing on them. I'm talking there isn't a mark, dent, dink, nothing on them. Doesn't show anything. So you really absolutely do not know what you're getting. That's the controller right there. It's got the red and black wires, which you've got to hook up to your 12-volt battery. Now, I originally hooked this up putting the turbine wires up first, and what it did was it burnt out the unit. You've got to hook up the red and the black wires first to power up the unit. And you can see the three little LEDs. The first one here basically shows that it'll light up, shows the unit's getting power. The second one, when the turbine starts turning, it'll flicker, and mine flickers, but it produces nothing. The little red light is the braking light. When this reaches a certain amount of volts, on this one right here, braking voltage is 15 volts or 30 volts, depending on whether it's 12 or 24, it will start shutting the turbine down. So that's the unit that I basically bought. In fact, I bought two of them because I smoked the first one. That's the same unit. That's the flange that I had to buy. That was 30 bucks. Mounted it. And again, this is the flange. The one I bought was a 1.5-inch flange, Hollyander. It's a 42-8. They also make a 42-7, which is an 1.25-inch base flange. There's the flange mounted. This is the railing guide right here. Shows the size of the flange that you need. Again, that's the flange. Oops, okay. That's a boat. And that's it. Okay, now the next step I'm going to go to is, these are the motor specs. So this will basically tell you what you've got. The 100-watt motor weighs 6.6 pounds, it's 65 millimeters by 153 millimeters. It's 2.5 inches thick by 6.0 inches wide. The next one is a 300 watt. It weighs 7.05 pounds, 65 by 153. You can see these two motors are the same thing. The only difference is the weight because of the windings inside. This one here is, again, 2.5 by 6.02. The 300 watt is a little heavier motor. It goes up to 9.92 pounds. It is also a little bit bigger. It's a 70 millimeter by 153 millimeter. It's 2.99 inches in thickness and 6.0 inches across. The 400 watt also is 10.58 pounds by 76 millimeters by 153 millimeters. It's 2.99 by 6.02. Now, the unit that I got, this is the unit. This is a 400 watt unit. It's 10.58 pounds, 70 millimeters by 153 millimeters. It's 2.75 inches thick by 6.02 inches wide. So I could have got the 400 or the 300, but I did weigh it. It weighed right about 10.5 pounds, so it was the 400. The 500 watt motor again gets heavier, 14.77 pounds. It's 100 millimeters by 185 millimeters, almost 4 inches by 7.29. It also is available with a 100 millimeter by 188 millimeters, 3.93 by 7.4. Now, the kicker is the 6.5, the only way you can tell the difference is the 600 watt is it's 16.53 pounds. It's heavier than the 500 watt. It is also 100 millimeters by 185, same as this one. Or it comes 100 millimeters by 188 millimeters, same as the 500. It also comes as a 100 millimeter by 175 millimeters. So all three of these can be a 600 or a 500. So you don't know what you're getting because, like I said, these things are not marked. The 800 watt unit is 18.73 pounds. It is also 100 millimeters by 185 millimeters, or 100 millimeters by 188 millimeters. So you have basically 3 units, the 500, the 600, and the 800, all exactly the same size. The only difference you can tell is in the weight. This starts at about 15 pounds, and this one right here, the big one, goes up to 19 pounds. That is the only way you can tell, because like I said, it could be 500, 600, or 800. It depends on what the windings are inside the unit that basically gives it its weight. So the only thing I can tell you is this. My friend, like I said from the first video, he bought one, dragged it all the way to the Bahamas from California, through customs and everything else like that, mounted it, ran it for over 2 weeks. Because what happened with mine was, I first got it, I set up my 1224 controller, and I smoked it. So I had to wait another 10 days to get it. Meanwhile, he was already in the Bahamas, and basically, he got his set up. Same thing I did. Got the unit, set up the controller to the 1224 converter from AC to DC, set up his inline meter. Now, the difference was, in the Bahamas, he's on a sailboat in a big cove, lots of wind. I'm talking wind constantly blowing 15, 20 miles an hour, day in and day out, all the time. His, in 2 weeks, produced 0, I'm talking 0 watts, 0 amps, 0 amp hours. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I thought, well, maybe he wired something wrong or whatever. We went through the wiring. No, everything was wired correctly. Even the little converter box, the 1224 converter box, was flickering, showing supposedly it was supposed to be producing power. But the meter showed nothing. I got my new 1224 controller in. I set it all up, put my meter back up again. A week went by. Nothing, absolutely 0. I said, okay. I tested everything. Everything was correct. Wiring was perfect on it. I ran actually heavier wire than it was called for. And I actually tested the meter, the DC meter, inline DC meter. I took it off of the wind turbine. I put it onto one of my solar panels. It produced exactly to the letter what the solar panel was putting out. So, the only thing I can tell you is this. If you want to go play with one, knock yourself out. But I'm telling you, they are junk. Most of the YouTube videos you see on these things basically state they don't produce anything. There's a couple of them on there that basically say, yeah, they don't do too bad. I'm telling you, the 2 that we tested produced nothing. Stay away. Like I said, I invested $250. I'm going to get maybe $153 of that back. The rest of it I can just basically throw out, get rid of. That's basically what I'm going to get back, and I'm probably going to end up having to have eBay get involved in this because the seller doesn't want to rebate the money. He keeps sending me stuff like, send me a video, send me pictures, blah, 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 explain, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, these Chinese sellers, first of all, they advertise it's in the United States. They are not in the United States. They are in China. Basically what they do is they send it from China. They'll tell you it'll be there in 10 days. It takes 2 to 3 to 4 weeks to get here. They send it to USA, to I don't know who, to somebody in the USA. I think in California a lot of them are. Then they repackage it and they basically send it to you. So they'll tell you that you'll get it in a week to 10 days. Wrong. It took about 3 weeks for mine to get here. So all I can tell you is this. I have had no luck with them. If you want to go buy one, throw your money out the door, knock yourself the hell out. But I'm done with them. I'm probably going to either put my 100 water back up again, or I'm going to buy another horizontal axis wind turbine similar to the one that I've already got, probably a little bigger, maybe 500 or 600 watts, and put it back up. They're noisy, but they do work. So that's it for this video. Say goodnight, Mel. Good night.